Votes are being counted in the crucial midterm elections in the United States. The Democrats, who have held both houses of Congress for the past 2 years, are predicted to lose the House of Representatives to the Republicans in these elections. In Pennsylvania, after an acrimonious race, the Democratic candidate John Fetterman has beaten the Republican Mehmet Oz, a former celebrity doctor who became senator. There were many other dramatic wins and firsts. Here's our Washington correspondent, Nomia Iqbal.
He's the man many think could run for president. Republican Ron DeSantis has won big as governor of Florida, cementing the Sunshine State as deeply conservative.
Florida was a refuge of sanity when the world went mad. We stood as a citadel of freedom for people across this country and indeed across the world.
His style, his politics, it's all familiar. Could he be the man to rival Donald Trump as the next Republican leader? It's not something the former president seems keen on. Mr. Trump held his own event in Florida earlier. He didn't mention DeSantis, but praised other Republicans who have won seats in Congress.
The numbers have been amazing so far. Now, this is just up until this point. But as of this moment on endorsements, with the nominations, we had a total of 330 endorsements on nominations. This is only on nominations. This isn't for tonight. And of the 330, we won 200. We won 324.
The current president was also sending congratulations to winning Democratic Party members. In the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania, Democrat John Fetterman beat Trump ally, the TV celebrity Dr. Oz.
I'm proud of what we ran on. Protecting a woman's right to choose, raising our minimum wage, fighting the union way of life.
The Republicans are tipped to win the House, but overall the battle for the Senate is too close to call. Millions of votes are still being counted. Voting is over, but it'll be a few more days for the outcome of the midterms to really come into focus. Nomia Iqbal, BBC News, Washington.
Well, let's talk to Nomia now, joining us live from Washington. So, Nomia, listening to your report there, and Donald Trump saying, the numbers have been amazing so far, but the reality is they haven't. The so-called red wave didn't happen, did it?
It's not emerged, and that's, yes, exactly what a lot of the polls were predicting, that it would be a big night for the Republicans. You know, we know how the midterm elections usually go. Historically, the party in power always takes a beating. That's just, you know, that's what the past has just taught us, and I think that's what it was truly felt like this time with the Democrats, because there were so many big issues that Americans cared about, such as inflation, the cost of living, abortion rights and so forth. But just looking at the sort of the results so far, it is still very close. On the House, at the moment, Democrats look to set to gain 173 seats, 198 for the Republicans. They only need 5 seats, remember, to get the House. So it is tipping their way at the moment, whereas the Senate is just too close to call at the moment. There have been key wins for the Democratic Party in that report. You know, we saw there John Fetterman taking the very key Senate seat in Pennsylvania, but also in Florida as well. We saw Governor Ron DeSantis really cement his power in Florida and really setting up potentially to run in 2024. But of course, we know that Donald Trump, it still very much looms over the Republican Party. And he's already said that he's going to make an announcement next week. And it's widely expected that he may announce that he's running again for the White House.
Yeah, and this is what's going to be the conversation now, isn't it? It's the post-mortem after the midterms, what it means for the Republican Party in terms of who they choose for a candidate, and also, of course, for the Democrats as well. I mean, the Democrats breathing a sigh of relief, we assume?
Because we don't know the full results yet, that remains to be seen. Of course, the Democratic Party wants to hold on to Congress. It was never going to happen. Losing the House is maybe something that they expected to see happen. It will mean that President Biden's legislative agenda will be stalled. There have been some rare moments of bipartisanship, between both sides during his presidency. I think it's likely that for the next 2 years of his tenure, that probably the Republicans, if they do indeed take the House, won't want to see much of his legislative agenda get through. They don't want him to have as many wins, perhaps, because they want to try and take the White House in 2024. In terms of, who could be the leader for the Republican Party, well, that remains to be seen. Donald Trump is still hugely influential. He has backed hundreds of candidates who support his unsubstantiated claims that the election was stolen in 2020. Some of them have won seats. We get to see if others have. One of the ones that is really key to look out for is Kari Lake in Arizona. But I think that for Donald Trump, he very much sees himself, and any kind of big Republican win or any kind of Republican win will be something that he sees as a sign that he is not the past for the Republican Party. He's still very much the future of it.
But whatever happens in terms of who comes forward as saying that they want to run for president on either side, the next 2 years, if the Republicans gain the majority in the House, and they're likely to do so, it will hugely change the narrative, won't it? Because they could then launch investigations into various matters, President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, into how they exited Afghanistan, all sorts of issues. But also they could stop the very high-profile investigation, couldn't they, into the attacks on Capitol Hill on January 6th?
Oh, definitely. We're going to see a new kind of antagonism between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. You're completely right there in terms of the congressional investigations. House Republicans have more or less said that if they take back the House, they will launch those sorts of investigations straight away. Just to recap what you said, the Afghanistan withdrawal, they have a real fixation on President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. They've accused him of corruption in his business dealings with China and Ukraine, something he's denied. But also, so that would get really personal, of course, for Biden. And you mentioned there the January 6th committee, which is looking into the attack on the Capitol. They are due to give their final report, but the Republicans have even suggested that if they take the House, they will, kind of in a sort of revenge, launch their own investigation into the January 6th committee itself. And as I mentioned, of course, Biden's legislative agenda will be stalled. There has been lots of bipartisanship. He has got through an infrastructure bill, for example, aid to Ukraine as well. But if they take the House, it's going to be very difficult to see how they will want the rest of his 2 years to be successful. If he holds on to the Senate, however, and it is looking very close at the moment, they have a narrow majority anyway, that will be a glimmer of hope for the Democratic Party. He'll still be able to pass through nominations for secretaries, for federal judges, and of course, very crucially, if a vacancy suddenly appears on the Supreme Court, and we know that the Supreme Court is so crucial in shaping the direction of this country, if a vacancy comes up on there during the next 2 years, then he won't have a problem getting that through.